Hi and welcome to this episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the lands and airwaves of Nam where this conversation takes place. Land which was never ceded. Land where communities came together to eat seasonally, locally and without exhausting resources. I pay my respects to the elders past and present and to any First Nations people listening today. Today I'm talking to Anna Kelly Mcleod about her book, The Kitchen of Somewhere, which is a deeply personal story of how food shapes our connection to place, the environment, and most importantly, our understanding of who we are. It weaves a narrative inspired by a plum-velvet covered notebook found by Anna shortly after her mother's passing by suicide. The notebook was bursting with stories of her mother's travels and the recipes she collected along the way. Using this notebook as a guide, Anna travelled over 64,000 kilometres to retrace her mother's steps and craft a one-of-a-kind cookbook that captures the food and the places her mother once visited in her younger years. I feel very lucky to have had the opportunity to talk to Anna ahead of her In Conversation event at Readings in the State Library and ahead of Mother's Day. Storytelling is at the heart of what I do, or at least sharing other people's stories, and Anna is an exquisite storyteller, tapping into memory, food, and place as a way of honouring her mother's life and making connections with others. $5 from the sale of each book goes towards Beyond Blue to support their work with mental health. I loved connecting with Anna over a shared love of nostalgic Aotearoa New Zealand food and hearing about the journey she took to bring the Kitchen of Somewhere to fruition. This conversation does mention suicide. If you need to talk to someone, please ring Lifeline on 131114 or lifeline.org.au. There's also Beyond Blue, 1300 22 4636, or you can go to their website at beyondblue.org.au. Hi, Anne.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Where are you?
Yes, so I arrived in Melbourne
Oh, you are here.
2 days ago.
Great.
Yes, from LA. But I'm very happy to be in Melbourne. I can tell you right now. I got straight into my Melbourne coffee and um, been kind of ticking all my Melbourne boxes to make sure I
That's
got into
great.
it really quickly.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that you're here, and I have lots of things to talk to you about because when I first got the email asking me to if I would like to talk to you, which of course I was delighted to, and I looked a bit further. There's a strong New Zealand connection as well, so I'm excited to hear more about that.
Yes, good. Yes, I've been listening to your podcast, loved the podcast, and I could hear, accents sort of blur a little bit. Like I know mine goes, across the globe sometimes when it floats in and out of different accents, but I heard a little familiar edge
Yeah.
to the accent, and when I heard that there was a New Zealand connection, yeah, it's in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it looks like such an incredible project, and I was just looking at a photo of the book, The Kitchen of Somewhere, and it's thick. There's a lot in it. You've done a lot of work.
Yeah. Yes, yes. It's almost 400 pages or just over 400 pages. And definitely because there's a little bit of something for everyone. There's big epic landscape photographs. I really wanted it to be a book that could happily sit on the coffee table as well as the kitchen bench. So
Mm.
depending on what interests you at which particular moment, hopefully there's something in it for a range of interests actually.
Absolutely. So let's maybe start with, well, where did you start with it? When you found your mother's journal, which sounds like it was full of lots of interesting, well, full of life actually. Talked about having the food on some of the pages from the recipes that she'd written down and her many travels and thoughts that she had. When you found that journal, w- what was your reaction to that?
Well, you're absolutely right, Joe. The catalyst for this book was um, actually the passing of my mother.
Mm.
she was this incredible cook. She filled our family life with just wonderful food experiences. And when I look back at it now, it sort of seems a little bit idyllic. You know, we'd have family vacations that would um, dive off the highway to find a particular honey hive, or you know, a specific ingredient that we'd end up out on some rock somewhere with a lobster sort of cracking on our knees.
Yeah.
Or, she'd have Reggiano wrapped in calico in a suitcase, smuggling between Australia and New Zealand. And we'd be stopped by customs officials to say, what's this cheese you're smuggling in?
Yes.
And, and I thought that, this food life, what better thing could I do than record it? So one Christmas, I gave her a notebook. It was completely empty. And I explained to her that I would re-gift this book every year and try and record the food memories and the recipes and the photographs that we'd covered that year, and re-gift it to her every Christmas. Now, at the time, I didn't think anything of it, um, other than the beautiful moments that I wanted to make sure we captured. And so over the years, this book sort of grew, and it started to explode at the edges and had beetroot stains on it. And we used it to cook from. And it really grew. And I re-gifted and re-gifted it. But in 2008, my mother passed away. And that was devastating experience. And it's difficult to find words to explain that experience even now, other
Yes.
than the fact that you still carry pain with you, pushing into your heart. But um, after after her funeral, I went back to her desk, and there, sitting on her desk, was this book. And I picked it up and I turned the pages, and looking at the food and looking at the recipes, my sadness sort of found sanctuary in those pages and with the food. And I felt a deep connection to her, even though she had gone. And it was very familiar. And I flipped over the quince paste and the lemon cake and the, great coffee shop that we'd met at. And then I got to the end of the book, and there was something I hadn't seen before. And there were some notes that she'd left me. And she'd written words of wisdom and advice for me to take with me in life when she knew she wouldn't be there, to give it to me. And on one simple piece of paper, it said, um, I love my family and believed I'd always be there for them. So many good times. This book is true about love. And that simple sentence, that sentence, this book is true about love, sort of echoed in my head. Um, and the wisdom of it, that in this place that she was writing these words of advice, she looked at the food and she could still feel the love that was being communicated through the food, and the beauty of the places that had been traveled to find the ingredients, or the the spectacular experience of a particular restaurant, that even in that darkest moment, she could still feel that. And the words that this book is true about love, um, in such a simple way, captured that. And I felt it sort of echoed in my head. And I felt a duty to that memory to now share that advice and that wisdom with as many people as possible.
Absolutely. And it's such a celebration of a life, rather than, your mother was so much more than her death. So I think that it's a really beautiful way of you to celebrate that love and her life. So
That's right. That's right. It's sort of, it becomes this idea about food and memory,
yes.
and how you can actually, how powerful food is. But we talk about storytelling, and I know you talk about food and storytelling all the time, but it also is this incredible vehicle for memory. And if we suddenly have this awareness, which I had through this experience, that it can be this tool to trigger memory, then you have this ability to potentially, you know, shape the brain of your future. You can craft these food experiences for your family or for your loved ones to say that I'm creating something that's somewhere down the line you're going to have this memory trigger that that brings back all these wonderful thoughts and emotions and um, vivid images of where you were, and the power of food to do that is is unique is unique.
Absolutely. And I think it's a beautiful thing because, as you say, I mean, I think a lot about Proust. I don't know if people think a lot about. I don't think my Proust is my Roman Empire, but I do think a lot about Proust and that whole act of biting into the Madeleine and being transported to, another place, that power of scent or flavor to take us, to spark a memory and take us so vividly somewhere. And I think that by share, it's a bit like what I do with, I think, with conversation with a chef, and that you have these really amazing conversations with people. That I just want to share with other people, and you're doing that with these beautiful experiences of food and connection, which I think is incredible. And I think it also is one of those things that for readers or cooks or people who love seeing beautiful landscapes, it's a really great prompt for, like for us to record these beautiful experiences for later to look back on and relive and enjoy and share and so on. Like, I mean, what a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah, and I love the idea of the Madeleine moment, the Madeleine moment, which I'm sure your pronunciation of the French is much better than mine. I love that the reference of Proust, where dipping into the lemon tea with the Madeleine and biting in, and a flood of memories that nothing else could trigger for the character of that.
That's
Look,
right.
I love that idea that now involuntary memory, which is studied in neuroscience and has this whole medical approach, could also be described by a beautiful baked good. I love that cooking has sort of found its way into neuroscience and understanding the brain.
That's right. I think my first instance of that was not a very high culinary one. I just had a sudden flashback of me as a little girl in Disneyland smelling the hot dogs and going, that's right, this is Disneyland or something. But it was, that just came to me in a flash, and I'm hoping I've moved on from that to more, loftier French dishes or something. But when you when you set about thinking you want to share these things, more widely, how important was it for you to actually travel and to walk those paths?
Yes, very important. And that the understanding of how important that was came with the writing process.
Mm,
So the actual production of the book started with the notebook that I've
mm,
just described as the sort of primary source. Then it moved into sort of talking to people that were there, as I retraced the origin story of Somewhere. So the book's called The Kitchen of Somewhere. Somewhere is this place, which is the final the final resting place of all these great food ideas and great food experiences, which readers will sort of discover along the way. But as I started having these conversations with people and looking through family archives and recipe archives, I realized that to actually capture it, you had to go. You had to be in the desert. You had to feel, how the wild streets of Key West, and what does it feel like to be in a town that sort of has a pirate spirit to it, or how does the French Quarter of New Orleans feel early in the morning, after the party?
mm,
What do these? How do you actually get that visceral sense of place and translate it into the writing or translate it into food? And the food really is a part of the story. This isn't a cookbook that, as much as we love these cookbooks, it's not 30 recipes in under 30 minutes. It's a cookbook where the food is a vehicle to transport you to a particular time in a particular place
mm.
and lift that place off the page and onto people's plates. So it's used very much as a part of the fabric of the story. Um, so to go there and to be in these places um, and really capture that essence, it was quite important to be able to translate it properly and to feel authentic. And also the photography, the food photography, uh, the creative mission there was to have it in situ, in natural light, not in a studio. So the majority of the food photography um, is done out on location, and that has a certain adventure to it as well. But hopefully, that can be felt through the photography. You can feel that outdoor air or the adventure spirit through the images as well.
Absolutely. And are they're places that your mum travelled to? Is or
Yes,
yes, yep,
yes.
yep.
So the story traverses about a decade,
Okay.
and it's set in the 1970s. So the book has this slightly 1970s retro um, dusting over it, and the foods and the photography. There's some historical photographs in there, which are incredibly sort of 1970s stylish,
Mm.
if that's a combination of words.
Mm.
It has a sort of style flair to it. They're incredibly beautiful and bring the characters to life a little bit. So, yes, it's absolutely a specific time and a specific place. And some of the food has this 1970s nod to it, like brulee grapefruit. You know, grapefruit just was
Oh yeah,
one trend. Yeah, this is
absolutely
slightly
was.
a twist on it to give it a to transport you to that place where, you know, if you can say a fruits on thing, to that place where they felt that and they were eating grapefruit at the table in 1970s kitchen in California.
Yes. Well, I think even in 1970 Christchurch, we had actual grapefruit spoons that were kind of triangular that mum would cut. I don't even know. So how did someone was doing a great marketing job with the grapefruits in the 70s, weren't they? That's astounding. I'd forgotten about that. It's amazing. How long did this book take to compile? Because it sounds like there's a lot of layers in it.
Right, there's a lot of layers, and I travelled over 64,000 kilometres
Wow.
to sort of cover the territory as we just talked about. So I did this travel in sections in between life and work, and sort of did it in chunks. So it took a couple of years to pull it all together. Um, but I think that travel, that sense of place comes through, and if you go there, you can feel it and translate it into the words and the food. So taking the time to do that and to get that authenticity, I think really helped in telling the story, and that message that food can communicate these things. It can capture a sense of place and capture that memory, which is really the message that we want to sort of share with this story. Um, Pulling it together over that period of time and taking the time was really worthwhile.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, just to talk about some of the recipes, because I read somewhere about the South Island apple, is it dessert or a pie?
Right.
Was
Yes,
it,
it's a
was
South
it,
Island apple cake.
yeah, apple cake, yes, that's right. And I have such fond memories. I don't think I've had as good an apple as I recall having when we were little and picking apples off the tree in some orchard. I think we were allowed to. I think we probably paid to do it. But just the taste of those apples in season, in autumn or whatever that so tell me about the cake.
Yes, so this is a recipe that was cooked on repeat in the kitchen, and it is a recipe from right at the beginning of the story
Mm,
where um, my mother, Pauline, the main character of the book, is in the South Island. She's in Dunedin in the deep south, and studying and living and surrounded by all this incredible produce and working in a cafe with Mrs. Malta. It's a student town, so
Mm.
everybody's got jobs and studying and living together. And my mother would work in this cafe to make money and pay for her study. And there was an apple cake in that cafe from Mrs. Mcleod. She was a Dutch woman that had immigrated to New Zealand and was living in Dunedin. And as she graduated and left that job, the parting gift was this apple cake. And for the rest of our lives, we had this, and every time we had it, it was a moment that was my young mother studying in Dunedin in the South Island. And then when I went back to Dunedin to study myself, and I was working as a wilderness guide out on the Otago Peninsula and traveling into the mountains and up around the top of the South with Nelson, Marlborough, and guiding up there and eating the produce that's grown right across the South Island of Aotearoa, that I kept coming back to this apple cake, the apple cake and the orchards and the growing region of the South Island just was always connected to my mother and Dunedin as that student town. So in one bite, this story um, of that time in her life was captured, and it traveled with us for the rest of our lives. But there's other recipes in there as well, like the spice soaked cherries from Nelson, or the hokey pokey with rosemary mist ice cream, or pippy fritters, which every time I have them, I just imagine myself on the Coromandel with my toes sort of digging into the sand to harvest the pippies and take them back and steam them and pick the little bits of sand out of it. And each of these items has this connection to a place and to a story and to a time, um, that that everybody has these stories. So it's a story of many families, and everybody can reflect on their own memories and what these trigger. But whenever I go back to the South Island now, I will have my destinations that I have to traverse. So it's Mapua for the smoked fish, or the box of cherries from Nelson, or Nin's Bins on the Kaikoura coast for
Iconic.
a crayfish. It's like if I don't do that, it doesn't feel like I've arrived yet.
Oh, I agree. For me, I was just back in Christchurch, and it's bluff oysters, and we had there was an ice cream truck that's still there. Apparently, it was started in the early century, last century must have been, of this man making ice cream, and it was called Ice Cream Charlie, and it's just this very icy vanilla ice cream, and it's topped with just a little bit of actual berry syrup. And it's just the best thing. And I'm not really a sweet tooth, but I said to my mum when I was just back over there, I said, I see the Ice Cream Charlie van. We've got to go and have ice cream. And we had several attempts. He's now only open on certain times. And poor mum was being dragged back there all the time. But I think that's the thing. And I was just reflecting too on, I think we often have I don't know what the word is, a negative view of the culinary landscape of Aotearoa before, the last couple of decades. And I know when I lived in France for a year in the 90s, all of the beautiful food they cooked there, I just thought, gosh, we've got nothing like this in New Zealand. But I'm really glad you are reminding me of the actual raw ingredients and the landscape of New Zealand. We absolutely had all of those things, as you say, just those incredible natural resources and so on, and fruit that tasted like fruit. We certainly had and have those incredible things. I just spoke to a chef last week, Winston Jung at Akaito, and he said he loves going to New Zealand, but he won't eat in any of the restaurants. He just go to those places that you mentioned. Yeah, the produce is so good, or the crayfish and the green-lipped mussels and so on. And there's a good reminder that we do have treasures over there.
Well, that's so interesting to hear. I think Monique Fiso at Hiakai is doing an amazing job as well in New Zealand, in her restaurant Hiakai, which is sort of bringing to life those native ingredients in New
That's
Zealand
right.
and taking a whole new twist. She's doing a remarkable job. Her book is also spectacular, but her restaurant is doing the same. So she's taking ingredients like kawa and the native ferns and bringing to it a level of culinary skill that just elevates all these ingredients that we understand as bush ingredients. And I think Australia is really embracing its native ingredients, and some of the spectrum is just spectacular in terms of the flavor palette, and restaurants are really starting to use it. But wouldn't it be fantastic if every kitchen had these ingredients as well?
Absolutely. That's right.
In New Zealand, those raw ingredients when I was guiding in New Zealand, and when tourists came or travelers came or even students, local New Zealand students would come out and come into the wilderness with me. You would go into the wilderness and you would be challenging yourself physically, or you would be learning a new athletic skill, or you would be pushing yourself to a limit. But when you introduced food to that process, it just shifted these experiences into a place of luxury. So if you were hiking a trail and kawa was there and you picked a few kawa leaves, or you're paddling out in the Marlborough Sounds and you pass greenlet mussels on the edge of the rocks, and you just harvested six and then pulled up on the beach. And at the end of the day, you were steaming your greenlet mussels and boiling in the billy the kawa leaves for a digestive at the end. And you could see people's eyes sort of light up with the fact that there was the open fire and the ocean sort of dancing at their toes, but they were eating something that they'd seen growing just a couple of hours earlier in the day. And that sense of being in New Zealand or in that place as you consumed it, just it's you could see it feeling like magic in those people for that experience. It wasn't just about the struggle, it wasn't just about the environment, it was also sort of this how food can just elevate that moment. It is really quite incredible to see.
That's right. And I was about to ask a question that involved the word, what's the most exotic? I was going to say, what's the most exotic destination? But actually, New Zealand sounds pretty exotic the way you just described it. So, what's
Yeah,
another?
I think Australia has. I think both you and I have this connection to both sides of the Tasman.
Yes.
Definitely consider us family, and I think that reflects in some of the recipes that are in this book as well. Because the ginger crunch is this very nostalgic baking
Yes.
item, but it's got a twist of pepperberry in it. In the book, which gives it this depth and rich earthiness to something that we're all quite nostalgic about. But I've had some fantastic experiences, and some people would call it exotic in Australia as well. I know I was in a national park
Oh, wow.
in Queensland and came running along the trail and saw two lizards fighting each other. They were on their hind legs and they were, swinging punches at each other. And I thought, surely they'll hear my feet and decide to, you know, scatter into the trees. But they were very confident and they were just fist fighting each other and not taking any notice of anyone else. So I had to scramble up the bank and sort of skirt around them as they continued to Mike Tyson each other
Oh,
on the
goodness.
trail. And I thought to myself, these lizards are almost as tall as me on their hind legs.
Wow.
And they did not care that I was present at all. And I thought, this is a uniquely beautiful Australian outdoor moment that I would say I couldn't find in too many places around the world.
That's right. Goodness. And it's a good reminder too that you know, we're not the main protagonist of their story. We think we're the big people, the kind of the top of the ladder or whatever, but you were just nothing to them as they continued their lives. Yeah.
Right. And I loved talking Australia and the ingredients that are so exciting here. One of the first things I've got to do when I arrive in Melbourne is go to Marble and
Mm.
how the storytelling and the ingredients are being woven through the menus. Marble is just just another fantastic example of the same idea of transporting to place and transporting
Yes.
with every bite you into a different environment in a different place. And she's obviously huge on storytelling.
Amazing.
But,
Yeah.
but it's this fantastic Monique Fiso and Nornie Barrow in Australia. They're sort of these exceptional chefs that are doing such a great job at this same idea that I'm telling in this book.
Yeah. You're a great storyteller as well. You're very good at it sharing your experiences and the ideas and the food. And I see that you've got a few dates coming up. So the State Library on the 14th of April. That's an exciting prospect.
Yes, yeah, we've got an in conversation event at the State Library
Yeah.
with readings, which would be great to see everybody there.
Yes.
The book is also raising money for Beyond Blue.
Yes.
So, with every book we sell in Australia, we're donating $5 back to their support services. So, again, that mind, memory, mental health connection, which is woven into the motivation of this book, and is really important for us to keep funding the resources that support mental health in the community. So
Yes.
the book has got a purpose to it that we're really trying to do some good with it as well.
That's right. And people can buy it from readings, I guess, and also online. Or
Correct. If they want to find stockists, they can visit somewherekitchen.com, and we'll have all the stockists listed on the website.
perfect.
And definitely readings, come along to the In Conversation event, and they can pick up a copy there and um, share in the story. But yeah, it would be great to see them at the event.
Well, I'm going to go to the event because it sounds amazing. Because I'd love to meet you in person, and I definitely need a copy of this book because it's just remind Ginger Crunch, what an all-time favorite. I was going to ask you though. I'm always a bit intrigued because I like baking from the Edmonds cooking book, which I think used to be the Chelsea. I think nowadays online it's the Chelsea Sugar book, which maybe is a sign of the times. Not book, but anyway. And one of the recipes was Afghans. Do you remember Afghans?
Yeah, why don't we still make that? Afghans, yo-yos,
Yeah.
coconut ice,
Mm,
the ginger crunch, hokey pokey, like biscuits. The Edmonds cookbook is sort of, the joy of cooking is up there as your
so good.
Bible, right, in the
That's
kitchen.
right.
And then Edmonds was sort of floating right next to it in everybody's house, wasn't it? It
It
was a
was.
baking Bible for sure.
That's right.
That's such a trigger for me.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
funny.
funny, isn't it? So, I feel like your book's going to have everything I love all combined into one with storytelling and food. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on a copy as well. So thank you, Anna. I really appreciate talking to you, and I look forward to meeting you in person one day.
Well, thanks. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm a huge fan, Joe. So it's wonderful to have a conversation, and I'll see you soon.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Anna Mcleod about her book, The Kitchen of Somewhere. Anna will be speaking at readings in the State Library on the 14th of May, and it's free, and you can book through the readings website. If you want to find out more about the book, go to www.somewherekitchen.com. As for me, I'm on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef, and if you'd like to read other chats, you can check out the website www.conversationwithachef.com. I would love it if you told a friend about the chats, and of course you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other places you listen to podcasts. It'd be great if you left a review. Be kind. But once again, thanks so much for listening. Have a great day and bon appetit.